So whether you're a brand new cultivator or you've been doing this for decades, you're a vet in the mycology field, it really doesn't matter. At some point in time, you're gonna have to deal with the dreaded C word, contamination. None of us want to hear this, none of us want to deal with it, but the fact of the matter is if you're in mycology, it's something you're going to have to deal with. The thing that really determines a good cultivator from any other cultivator is knowing how to deal with it the right way. You'll hear many different solutions thrown around, and one of those solutions is antibiotic agar. A lot of people have been asking me questions, what is antibiotic agar? How do you make it? Should I use it if I have any type of contamination? And I thought it would just be easier to do a video for you guys and show you how I make mine and explain the pros and cons. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. We're going to be talking about antibiotic agar. Let's go.
Dripping on acid in the hotel lobby. Everything moving hella fast, Ricky Bobby. Floating in the ethers. Listen to the ethers, you can probably tell the future. Superhuman man.
What's going on, Trip Team? First of all, I want to welcome you guys back to a brand new video. Now, if this is your first time ever on Willy's World, welcome to the Trip Team family, TTF, that's what it's about. As always, all my social media is right here, and if you guys like this video helped you out, real quick, just go down below, hit that subscribe button and the bell off to the side so that way you guys know when I drop a new video. We cover a wide array of things concerning to the psychedelic community, mycology, chemistry, all different things. We have some videos here on YouTube, but if you guys want to go more in depth, you guys want to learn how to do things step by step, then go check out my Patreon because that's where everything's at, the complete video library. YouTube has guidelines that we need to follow strictly, so we can't post everything up here on YouTube, but I got a video library probably with well over 100 videos, step by step, the easiest videos to follow to get you to wherever you want to go to. Now, a lot of you guys watching might be saying, Willy, where have you been? It's been a few weeks since I've posted up a video on YouTube, and it's because I was on the road filming the new web series. So if you guys didn't see episode 1, it's right up here. You guys could go check out episode 1. Pretty much what I do is I go all around the world to different countries. You guys get to come with me. It's kind of like a documentary adventure series type thing where we find new and beloved mushrooms from all around the world. So if you guys want to go see me finding all different types of psilocybe mushrooms, then go check that out because you guys will definitely enjoy it. The next episode will be out really soon, and it's Costa Rica. So for all you guys wondering, where is the next episode going to be? It's Costa Rica, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, you don't want to miss it. It's one of the best episodes that we've done so far. There's some great finds that are just going to blow you guys away. Now, you might also be wondering, Willy, there was this video on YouTube and this video and that video. Where did they go? I had to move them to my private library. So I always thought that my videos followed the guidelines, but unfortunately some of them didn't, so I had to move some of those videos to my private library, and that's why you guys don't see them no more. We want to stay in good standing with YouTube. We want to be a great YouTube channel to educate and help people, but unfortunately there's just some stuff that's in a gray area that we can't put on YouTube, and I don't want to get YouTube upset with me, so we just voluntarily pulled them off, put them in the private library. So if you guys want those videos along with a ton other, go to patreon.com because that's where all the videos are. We have a private library that you guys could watch, download, do whatever you want with. We also have a private chat room. You guys get free swagger. Plus, we also have a new tier that's going to be coming out next month. It's called the Myco Mystery Box. So if you guys join this tier, you're going to end up getting a mystery box with a whole bunch of different samples in it, some Trick Team swag like patches and pins, plus you guys are going to get a membership to my Patreon. It's all inclusive in that tier. So make sure you guys stay tuned and keep an eye on that because this is the first of its kind and it's going to be absolutely crazy. There is only going to be limited spots, so there's only going to be a few spots because, obviously we can't give 1,000 people or 2,000 people these mystery boxes. So we're probably going to keep it to 500 or under. So if you guys want to get in on that, I definitely suggest jumping on it as soon as I release it. You guys will know when I release it because I'll post it up on Instagram and it will be on Patreon if you're already a Patreon supporter. and you guys will be able to jump on it. It's kind of on a first come, first serve basis, and you guys are going to be really surprised at what's inside that mystery box. I'm telling you, you're not going to want to miss it. With that said, what are we doing today? So today we're going to be talking about antibiotic agar. Now, this has kind of been a really hot topic lately. You know, you see a lot of vendors selling antibiotic agar, and I really wanted to educate you guys and explain what it is, how often does people in the mycology field actually use it, what can it be used for, what's its benefits, and all that stuff. So let's talk about it real quick. What is antibiotic agar? Antibiotic agar is an agar dish that has the nutrient, has the agar, but it also has an antibiotic in it. Now, there's many different types of antibiotics that can actually be used. I'm going to be showing you guys my preferred antibiotic that I like to use and the reason why I like to use it. But that's what pretty much antibiotic agar is. Now, antibiotic agar is only used for bacterial contaminations. So bacterial contaminations aren't the same as trich or anything else like that. Those are molds. Bacterial contaminations are completely different, and that's what antibiotic agar is used for. Antibiotic agar will not help mold contaminations. Now, the reason why antibiotics won't help mold contaminations is because molds are a fungi. They're the same thing, just like mycelium, just like all the other fungi. Mold is a fungi. Now, it's considered an imperfect fungi, but it's still a fungi, so the antibiotics aren't gonna help that. But usually molds are a lot easier to clean up than a bacterial contamination. And that's where antibiotic agar comes in. Now, antibiotic agar isn't used very often in mycology, you know, just to be completely honest. It's only used for the most extreme cases of bacterial contamination, when all else fails. You know, we don't use it very often, and the reason for that is if we put a sample that's contaminated to antibiotic agar, we make a transfer, we have to keep making transfers to actually clean it up because we don't want to spawn the antibiotic agar slices to our grains. So we want to clean it up and eventually get it to a clean plate of agar where it's healthy growth, and then eventually we could put it to grains. You can't go from antibiotic agar straight to grains. It's not really healthy, it's not really suggested, and we don't ever really do that. There's a lot of different options you guys have to clean up your samples without using antibiotic agar. Another downside to antibiotic agar is pretty expensive. The antibiotics themselves are very expensive, and that's why you get that price increase when it comes to antibiotic agar. Now, we technically only use antibiotic agar in the most extreme situations, you know, such as if you go out to the forest, you collect a wild sample, you come back, you put it to agar, you realize, oh my God, there's a ton of bacteria on here, but there's also some healthy growth, but it's all mixed in. What you would do is you would take that and you would put it to antibiotic agar if you can't fix it any other way. Now, what the antibiotics are supposed to do is they're supposed to fight off the bacteria long enough for you to be able to get a clean sample of mycelium. Then you would take that sample of mycelium and you would transfer it to another dish, whether that be an antibiotic agar dish, just to make sure all the bacteria is completely gone, or you guys put it to a regular agar dish and let it grow out and see how it grows out, and then figure out where you're gonna go from there. This is a process, and every single time you guys go to antibiotic agar or agar, it's gonna be different. My situation won't fit you, your situation won't fit somebody else's. Every single agar transfer and agar inoculation is completely different. So in mycology, we prefer doing other things, trying to avoid antibiotic agar. But first, let me show you guys how I make antibiotic agar, my preferred method. So first, let's just talk about what we have in front of us right here. So right here, we have our nutrient. We're gonna be using extra light malt extract. Now, you guys could use malt extract, you guys could use potato dextrose, you guys could use any other nutrient that you guys want to use, but me, preferably, I like to use light malt extract or extra light malt extract. Now, if you guys follow this step by step, you guys are going to need 10 grams of light malt extract or extra light malt extract. Next, we have our agar powder. This is just regular agar powder. Very, very simple. You guys could usually get this from any Asian markets. You guys could order it online. Sometimes it comes in long pieces. You have to powder it up yourself. but I usually just buy it powdered up already. It's very, very cheap. Now, of course, they already have what's called premixes, so it has the perfect ratio of your nutrient, your perfect ratio of agar, and then you just add the water. Very, very simple. Now, it is more expensive to buy it this way, but if you guys don't want to have to deal with the measuring out and, you know, the weights and all this, usually the directions on the side will tell you how much water to add to X amount of agar premix, and it's very, very simple. Then you guys just autoclave or sterilize, and you guys are good to go. Next, we're going to be using a magnetic stirrer. This isn't required. It just makes things a lot easier. So we're going to be using my magnetic stirrer right here with a small stirring rod. I also have my autoclavable or PC safe flask. I love this. If you guys want to grab one, they're pretty cheap, and this will come in handy many, many times. This is a 1 liter flask, so you guys could do up to 1,000 milliliters of agar mix at a time. Next, we have a digital scale. Of course, if you guys are going to be weighing out your agar and your light malt extract, you need a scale so you can get the right ratios. Next, we have a sleeve of petri dishes. These are sterilized petri dishes. They're 15 millimeters by 100 millimeters, which is pretty much the common size petri dish you guys will find. This is a pack of 25. Now, the mix we're about to make is going to make anywhere from 18 to 20 dishes or so, depending on how you pour it. You know, if you pour heavy, you might get less. If you pour light, you might get a little bit more. So it really comes down to how you pour your agar, but we should get roughly around 20 dishes with the mix we're about to make. And the most important thing to this whole recipe is this right here. This is the antibiotic that we're going to be using, G418, or what's called G-sulfate, also known as gentamicin sulfate. It's actually one of the only antibiotics that you could actually autoclave or sterilize with your agar mix. So there's many different antibiotics out there, and most of them you have to add to the mix after you sterilize your agar. Most of them can't be autoclaved with the agar itself, but G418 or G-sulfate can actually be sterilized or autoclaved with the entire mix. So we get to add it before we even put it inside the PC or anything like that. It just makes everything much easier, and it also makes the chance of contaminating your agar much less likely. Now, G-sulfate isn't cheap by any means, and you're gonna see many different ratios out there. So you'll see some that are more diluted, some that are more concentrated. So this specific one is 200 milligrams per milliliter, but you'll see some that go up to 500, 600, 700, and even higher. The higher you go up in concentration, the more expensive it's gonna be. Now, really simple. If you guys are asking, well, how much should I use for my mix? So if you guys are doing 1,000 milliliters of agar, you guys only want to use 100 milligrams of G-sulfate. I like to use that ratio, but some people use more, some people use less. It really comes down to the mycologist, but I like to use as little of the antibiotics as I possibly can. Like I said, this isn't something that's very commonly used in mycology at all. But when it is used, you want to try to use the least amount of antibiotics as possible. Now, once you guys have all that, pretty much you guys are ready to start making your antibiotic agar. It's very, very simple. You make it the same exact way you would make any other agar mix. So first, let's hop in and start weighing out our nutrient and our agar. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to measure out 10 grams of light malt extract or extra light malt extract, and you're going to want to add that to the flask. Next, you're going to want to weigh out 10 grams of agar and add it to the flask. Now what you guys want to do is you want to take 500 milliliters of very hot water and add it to your flask. Now that we have our agar, our nutrient, and our water inside the flask, I'm going to turn on my magnetic stirrer and I'm going to let everything stir up for about 5 minutes. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for any solids to be completely dissolved. I don't want any sediment at the bottom of my petri dishes. I don't want any big chunks of agar or nutrients to be anywhere in my mix. I want it to all be dissolved evenly. Once you guys mix it up for about 5 minutes, now we're gonna add our antibiotic. So like I said, the proper ratio that you guys wanna use is 100 milligrams for every liter of material. Since this bottle is 200 milligrams per milliliter, one full dropper would be for 2,000 milliliters. So you need to do the math and break it down. So for 500 milliliters, we only want to use a quarter of the dropper. That's going to be about 50 milligrams of G sulfate for this entire mix. So once I have the quarter of the dropper roughly figured out, I'm going to start to drop it in one drop at a time while my mix is still going on the magnetic stirrer. I'm going to let this mix up for about a minute and then we're going to sterilize. So as you guys can see, it's done mixing up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cover on my flask and I'm going to put it in the PC. Now, if you guys want to, boil sterilize, you guys could do that with agar. You guys could do the microwave tech. There's many different ways to sterilize agar because it's a liquid. Liquids sterilize a lot easier than solids, say like grains or something else. So there's many different ways to sterilize. But the easiest way to do it is to put it in your pressure cooker at 15 PSI for about 30 minutes. Now, some people will go as high as 45 minutes, but it's really not necessary. I only leave mine in there for about 30 minutes. And as soon as it hits that 30 minutes, I relieve all the pressure from the pressure cooker and I pull it out. I don't want it to sit inside there and continue to sterilize, because what could end up happening is you could actually start to burn the agar or caramelize the nutrient. So I'm going to sterilize this real quick and then we'll come back and we'll pour our dishes. All right, guys, so our agar is done PCing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hop in front of the flow hood and we're going to pour some dishes. As always, guys, you guys want to follow sterile tech whenever you're working in front of your flow hood. So I've already wiped down, disinfected my entire area. I got my gloves on. I used hand sanitizer on my gloves. And now I'm going to start pouring my agar. There's a trick to agar. So when you pour your agar, you don't want to pour it too much. You don't want to pour it too little. You want it just right. If you pour it too little, it's going to dry out before anything could really colonize the full agar dish. And if you pour too much, it's going to be too close to the lid and you're not going to have enough room for growth. Another thing is the mycelium can also start growing out of the petri dish if you guys have the agar too far up. So I'm just going to pour a couple dishes here for you guys just so you can see how to do it, and then we'll move forward. All right, guys, I got all my dishes poured, and we poured about 18 dishes with the amount of agar liquid that we actually had. Now, a lot of people ask about condensation. How do you fix condensation? So if you guys noticed, I stack my petri dishes as I'm pouring them. What this does is it helps balance out the temperature from the outside to the inside of the petri dish, and you'll get far less condensation on your petri dishes if you stack them after you pour them. But if you can make the outside temperature the same temperature as the inside temperature, you won't get as much condensation, if any at all. What a lot of people do is they stack them all the way up and then they'll take a hot glass of water and put it on the last dish. So by stacking them, you're gonna cut down your condensation a lot. Now, once you guys have everything poured, you just need to let it cool and it's ready to use. That's your antibiotic agar. It's very, very simple. Like I said, antibiotic agar isn't used as often as most people would think. Every time you have a bacteria or a mold, the simple answer isn't antibiotic agar. It just isn't. We don't use it that often. We'd rather try isolating clean, healthy growth and transferring it to a new agar plate than just automatically going to antibiotic agar. And most of the times, this is just how you get rid of bacteria or mold, is just by isolating the healthy growth on regular agar and transferring it. And you let it grow out. If you see any bacteria or mold, you isolate some more healthy growth and you transfer it. And this is the way we do it to clean it up. You never want to go past 6 generations, whether you're isolating or you're trying to clean up a dish. You never want to go past 6 generations from the original. The reason for that is you could actually start to remove things from the genetics that you actually need, and you could start to hurt them versus improving upon them. So I'm going to show you guys a really simple, easy trick you guys could do with regular agar, so you guys don't need to use antibiotic agar if you guys have a bacterial contamination. Let's jump back in front of the flow hood. I'm going to show you guys something. So what I did when I poured my dishes, I took a drop of food coloring, red food coloring, and I put it inside this dish. The red food coloring is going to represent some type of bacterial contamination, whatever that may be. Now, let's say that bacterial contamination also has a mix of healthy mycelial growth, but it's just all intertwined and it's too hard to isolate by hand and transfer to a new dish. So what can we do? There's a really simple method that's just called pouring. So if we had healthy growth and bacteria right here represented by the red, what we could do is we could take some fresh hot agar and we could pour it right over the top of the bacteria and the mycelium. We let it cool and we let it colonize. What this will do is it will trap the bacteria underneath the new layer of agar, and it will give enough chance for the healthy mycelium to grow through the top. So it's going to trap it underneath, giving the mycelium extra time to grow out through the top. And once it does that, we could cut and transfer. This is a really, really simple trick that all mycologists use instead of using antibiotic agar. Now, you want to check it every day, because as soon as you have some healthy growth growing out the top of that new layer, you guys want to transfer it right away. If you guys wait too long, what will end up happening is the bacteria will spread, and eventually it will end up catching up to the mycelium, and it will start to infect the top the same exact way it did to the bottom layer. Like I said, antibiotic agar doesn't simplify anything. Yes, it will help fight off the bacteria long enough for you to get a healthy piece of mycelium to transfer, but you also have to do more work after that in order to get a nice clean sample or a nice clean culture to transfer to grains or whatever you guys may be using. So if you guys use regular agar, that's just regular nutrient-based agar like light malt extract, if you see bacteria growing but there's also healthy mycelium growing, you guys could just pour a new layer of agar over the top of that and give the mycelium time to grow to the top. As soon as it starts growing out, you guys could transfer to a new dish and leave the bacteria behind. So in essence, if you guys have bacterial contamination, is using antibiotic agar the right path for you? Not necessarily. Like I said, we don't use it that often, but if you guys want to give it a go, I definitely suggest trying it. You should get comfortable with it. Like I said, with most prints that you guys will get from vendors and stuff like that, if it was, cultivated indoors in the right conditions, there really shouldn't be any contamination on the print. But when you guys are out wild foraging or something like that, there's no way you can control the elements outdoors. So there's always going to be some type of mold or bacteria mixed in. Actually, it's much more common that you're going to see contamination on wild prints than a clean wild print. It's just something we have to deal with when we're finding new species or species that aren't on the market. So you should get comfortable with using antibiotic agar, but it shouldn't be your first choice every time you have a bacterial contamination. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully I was able to elaborate on the uses of antibiotic agar, what it is, how to make it, and all that good stuff. And hopefully this helps you guys out. I know a lot of people have been talking about this, and for a lot of new cultivators, this might be a confusing concept, and they might think that this is the right way to do things or the only way to do things if they have a bacterial contamination. So that was the whole idea of showing you guys what we call the pour tech, where we pour a new layer of agar over the bacteria and the healthy growth to allow the mycelium some time to grow healthy on that new layer of agar before the bacteria can catch up. Mycology is a lot of fun, and once you guys start diving into it, you're going to see all different things that people use, to get around certain things. But just because you see somebody using it, or just because you see a vendor selling it, doesn't mean it's the right way to do things or the right way for you specifically. In all honesty, in all my years of cultivating in mycology, I've only used antibiotic agar a handful of times. Another thing with antibiotics is they have a very short shelf life. So if you guys keep them in the right condition, they're usually kept inside the refrigerator. They last about 12 to 18 months, and they're pretty expensive. So if you guys aren't using them, you're pretty much just wasting money. So what I always suggest people doing is trying other methods before they jump into antibiotic agar. Like I said, antibiotic agar is only used for the most extreme cases of bacterial contamination. It won't help against mold contamination because mold isn't a bacteria, it's actually a fungi. With all that said, hopefully this video helped you guys out. It informed you and educated you on the uses of antibiotic agar. I love you guys, honestly. I know I say this all the time, but there is no me without you guys, and I could never do what I've done, what I've accomplished without you guys behind me. You guys are really just amazing. I love you guys. I'm Willy Myco. Do good, be good, live good. Namaste.